اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. خل المقادير تمضي لا تغالبها، فإن من غالب الأقدار مغلوب. إن القضاء لسيف لا يقاومه شيء من الخلق إلا وهو محبوب. وامشي رويدا مع الأقدار في مهل، فإن من يكره الأقدار متعوب. سلم وفوض لحكم الله محتسبا، فإنما الأمر مقضي ومكتوب. والله يقضي بما شاء وكيف يشاء، والعبد عبد ومخلوق ومربوب. ولم يزل ربه الرحمن يكلأه، باللطف والحفظ محفوف ومصحوب. حسن ظنونك بالرب الكريم، ولا تسيء ظنا فتبقى عنه محجوب. واعمل لنفسك أعمالا تسر بها، فكل ما يفعل الإنسان محسوب. إن كان خيرا فخير سوف يحصده، أو كان شرا فتنكيل وتعذيب. يا ويل من ضيع الأعمار في زلل، وكل من كسبه الآثام والحوب. واطلب علوما مع إقبال مع عمل، فأنت بالعلم والأعمال مطلوب. واحذر زمانك هذا إنه زمن، به المناكير شاعت والمعايب. فكن وحيدا فريدا خاملا حذرا، فإن فيه الأقاويل الأكاذيب. والظلم فاش بلا لوم ولا نكر، وللمساكين تخويف وترهيب. فكن لبيتك حلسا لا تفارقه، إلا لشيء له في الشرع تصويب. واذكر إلهك ذكرا دائما أبدا، فالذكر بالذكر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in the book of Nur Idah, written by Al-Imam Sheikh Hassan Shugun Bulali. And we pray that Allah bless us and with His forgiveness and make us give us any the openings towards the understanding in this subject, and may Allah bless us and with tawfiq and hidayah, and protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. So inshallah ta'ala we will enter into where we are. In the last lesson we were speaking about the rulings pertaining to water that is mixed with filth. So the author gave the example of the well. If there is filth in the well, how are we able to cleanse the well? And he mentioned if the well is a small well, where the quantity of the water is considered to be a small amount. So small amount quantity of water is what we mentioned. The ruling is that if any filth were to fall into it, it can contaminate the water. The water is considered to be mutanajjis, except there are things that are forgiven. If the water becomes contaminated and we deem it to be mutanajjis, then the author speaks about removing the water to a certain amount. It depends on the quantity any of the najis any that is in there, for us any to ascertain how much any water any has to be removed any from that any particular well. So we spoke any about that. So today inshallah ta'ala we will continue any from where any we are. We will enter into the page here any 64, that is faslun fil istinja. So today inshallah ta'ala we speak any about istinja. So istinja any is basically any it is purification and when it comes any to removing any filth any from the private parts. Yani when a person urinate, it is what you call istinja yani is to cleanse any oneself any from the filth any that are on any the private parts. Likewise any when a person what you call it remove any his bowels. So this is the meaning of the istinja. It is a form of purification any of the private parts that is contaminated any by filth any of the person. Then we have another thing any that is called al-istibra. So the author here mentioned any about term any that is known any as al-istibra. And he said hukmul istibra. So he said yalzamu rajula al-istibra'u hatta yazula atharul bawl. So first thing he speaks any about this istibra. What is any istibra? Istibra are basically any actions any that we do to remove the excess any of filth any inside any our private parts. So for example, any if a person any has urinated, there will be excess any of urine in the private part, especially any for the men. That is why he mentioned yalzamu rajula. But in reality, istibra is also for women, but the intensity of istibra is focused any on men. So that is why the author yani specifically yani mentioned rajul. Yani he did not say yalzamu rajula wal mar'ata, but it is understood. Yani woman also does any istibra. But for the man, yani it is pressing. It is more appropriate for him any to perform any istinja, because the nature any of the excess any of filth any that is in the private parts any of men, it is more than that of a woman. So he said yalzamu rajula al-istibra hatta yazula atharul bawl. So it is compulsory any upon him any to make sure that all any the excess atharul bawl, excess any of urine any is removed. But the question any we ask is, how does any a person any does so? How does a person any does so? Yani a person any has urinated any, for example, how does he ascertain that all any the excess any of urine any has been removed any from his private parts? So there are a few things any that can be done, and this depends on the body any of a person. Yani some person yani has to do a minor form any of istibra, while some other people any has to do a major form any of istibra, any due to the fact that different any private parts any react any differently any to certain things. There are some people any that needs a longer time any, for example, because the excess any is always any a lot. But there are people any whom they do not need any much time any to do istibra, because normally all any the excess any is very very minimal. So that is why any here any we find that the author any speaks any about these differences. So he said wa yatma'inna qalbuhu ala hasabi 'adatihi. What is important, and he said that the heart and of a person and he must be certain, must be inclined that no excess any is present now. Yani if he is inclined any to this with confidence, and that his heart any is in a way convinced that he has done enough to make sure that the excess any of urine has been removed any from his private part, that is that suffices. Then he gave any examples any of istibra. Imma bimashi, yani either yani a person and he walks, yani meaning after yani he urinated any, for example, of course any he makes sure that there is no more urine any at the private part by using a tissue or something, and then yani he walks a few steps. Yani if any the toilet and is big, he walks any a few steps. So sometimes any when we walk any we can find some any traces any of urine any that is in between any our legs at the main vein any of the penis. There is if there is any some movements any from the legs, those any excess any in between any the legs any is pushed to be out, to be removed. So this is any one way of istibra. And some people they suffice by just doing walking. Imma bimashi aw tanahnuhi. Normally we do tanahnu this is called any tanahnu. So when we do any such any voice has connection with the veins of the penis, the private part. So usually it will cause some movement. It will cause some movement to the penis. So this is a way of istibra. Awil ittija. But normally people do not do this. But this is one way where a person lies down. When a person lies down in a relaxing mode, then the excess of the urine can be easily removed. Now, or others, or other ways. Al-Imam Razali, for example, in Bidayatul Hidayah, he speaks about massage. Massage at the below part of the penis, the main vein, because normally the excess is there. So this is one of the ways of istibra. So what you call it, a person depends from one person to another. Some people need more time for istibra, as what I mentioned earlier. Some people do not need so. وَلَا يَجُوزُ لَهُ الشُّرُوعُ فِي الْوُضُوءِ حَتَّى يَطْمَئِنَّ قَلْبُهُ. It is not permissible that a person straight away takes wudu without having this what you call it, without him being convinced that all the traces of urine has been washed away. But if he knows there are traces of urine that is still present, then it is not permissible for him to take ablution, because he is not pure yet. So he has to wash himself before taking ablution. So hatta yatma'inna qalbuhu bizawali rashhil bawl. So all traces of urine must be removed. When the person is certain that is the case, then only it is permissible for him to take any ablution. So it is not permissible for him to take ablution while he is still in a state where there is najis. So this is the first part pertaining to istibra. So istibra is what we understand from what the author is saying. It is some actions that we do to come to a state of certainty that we have removed all the excess of urine from our private parts. Then he speaks about istinja. So istinja is washing, cleansing oneself from the filth, which is at the private parts. Then he mentioned wal istinja sunnatun min najisin yakhruju minas sabilain. So here we find this is one of the difference between the madhab of Imam Shafi, madhab Imam Abu Hanifa when it comes to istinja. So here the author mentioned istinja is sunnah, sunnah muakkada. That's what is mentioned by Maraqil Falah. In Maraqil Falah the commentary, the meaning of sunnah here is sunnah muakkada. So here we have to understand the meaning of istinja before we go further. Istinja is basically to cleanse our private parts, the filth that is at the private parts. So this action of cleansing filth at the private parts is called istinja. So we have to understand the difference between istinja and izalatun najasa. Istinja and izalatun najasa. So again, istinja, it is cleansing the private parts from filth. So anything that is out of the private parts is not considered to be istinja. That is izalatun najasa, and izalatun najasa is wajib, as what will mention. Izalatun najasa is wajib. But when it comes to istinja, when a person what you call it has just urine for example, there are traces of filth at the tip of the penis. So washing such filth using water or using stones. So this is the meaning of istinja. So this is the opinion that the author brought forth, that it is sunnah muakkada min najisin yakhruju minas sabilain. So this specifically when it comes to istinja, not izalatun najasa. Sabilain refers to the qubul and dubur. So filth that comes from the front private part, or the anus the back private part. Ma lam yatajawazil makhraja. So it is a sunnah as long as it does not go over the boundary of the private part. When it comes to the male private part, anything that is what you call it, that goes out of the boundary of the tip any of the penis any, for example. Likewise any when comes any to the anus, anything that goes out any from the boundary any of the anus, because that is considered to be izalatun najasa and not any istinja. So he mentioned wa in tajawaza, but if the filth goes any overboard, any for example, any it hit the hips, any for example, the hips, urine for example fell any and to the testicles any for example. So this is tajawuz. This is what you call it, has went any overboard. Wa kana qadra dirham. So how do we ascertain any the minimum going any of this overboard? So the author any mentioned qadra dirham. So the dirham, yani it is about any this size, anything any that is beyond any this size, and when we do in a handstand like this is more any than a dirham. So he mentioned that anything any that is more of the dirham, now it is compulsory for us any to cleanse it off. That is considered to be izalatun najasa. So anything any that is within this the size any of a dirham, that is within the boundaries any of istinja. Wajabat izalatuhu bilma. It is compulsory any that we wash it with water, because this is already any fell into izalatun najasa. And izalatun najasa is what we mentioned, what you call it is considered any to be wajib. So the author any mentioned, if anything any that is within what you call it the dirham, it is wajib to remove. So now there is this thing any that we have to differentiate in the Hanafi madhab, the difference any between wajib and fard. So there is any a difference between wajib and fard. Wajib, yani we say it is based any on dalil dhanni, fard any is based on dalil qata'i. Yani in terms any of evidence, when we say something that is fard, yani that evidence any is based any on yaqeen. Whereas when it comes to wajib, any the evidence any is based any on dhann. This is the difference between wajib and fard in the Hanafi madhab. So the author any mentioned, if the filth any is between 1 dirham, it is wajib to remove the filth. But if this more than 1 dirham, now it becomes any fard. I repeat myself. Wa in tajawaza. Yani now in this situation, the author mentioned 3 things. Number 1, if the filth any is at the what you call it, at the private part, it is sunnah mu'akkada, as what we mentioned. If it is more, then it becomes any wajib within the boundary any of 1 dirham. 1 dirham is like this. Anything that is within the boundary of 1 dirham, it becomes wajib to wash it away. But anything that is more than 1 dirham, it becomes fard. It becomes fard any to wash it off. So here we have 3 rulings. 1 is sunnah mu'akkada, number 2 is wajib, number 3 is fard. So we have to differentiate between what is the difference between fard and wajib, as what I mentioned. It is based any on the intensity and the strength any of the evidences any behind it. So if anything that is more than 1 dirham, it is fard that a person any cleanse it. But anything within 1 dirham, it is wajib, compulsory, that a person any wash it away. But if it is at the private part, then in the Hanafi madhab, as what we mentioned, it is a sunnah. And this is where there are differences any, if we make comparison, and even Shafi madhab any, we say that istinja any is compulsory. And then he mentioned ma yuftaradu indal irtisal. What is any compulsory any when a person yani bathe, and this is another topic. This is on the janaza bath. So the author any mentioned wa yuftaradu raslu ma fil makhraji indal irtisal minal janabah. So the author any mentioned that when comes any to bathing any the obligatory bath, that includes any the private parts. So we have any to wash any the private parts, just like how we wash any the other body parts. Now this is fard, that we have any to wash those private parts. So there are no differences any in this issue as to whether it is sunnah mu'akkada or it is wajib, but it is fard that all any parts any of the body any must be washed. So here any the author any is trying any to say that washing any bathing any of the janaba bath any carries a different ruling any than istinja. Wal hayd irtisal min al janabati wal haydi wan nifasi. Likewise any when woman any after their menses, after their nifas, postnatal bleeding, wa in kana fil makhraji qalilan, what you call it, it is compulsory any for them any to wash what you call it, the private parts, the private parts. Even yani, if there is any what you call it, some parts any of the private parts that needs any to be washed, and it has to be washed. Meaning any there is no any exception any in this case. Wallahu alam yani bisawab. Inshallah yani in our next lesson yani we will speak any about sunanul yani istinja, the sunnahs any when comes any to the istinja. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.